This is Kababalaghan 101, your home for creative stories for all supernatural from the Philippine mythology and folklore. The Serpent's Pearl. In the heart of an ancient forest deep in Samar Island, where shadows danced between ancient trees and whispers of forgotten magic lingered in the air, a mystical gem called a carbuncle can be found. This story tells of the heroic Sitrong who bore the magical carbuncle upon its forehead, and his friends as they fight to protect the forest from the threat of men, monsters, and magic.
Chapter 4, Sword of Dark, Shield of Light. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Maganjan transformed. The fading light painted the sky in hues of amber and crimson, casting long shadows across the forest floor. These shadows seemed to dance and twist, taking on lives of their own in the twilight realm between day and night. Datu found himself in a dense thicket, the air thick with tension and the scent of magic. An eerie silence had settled over the area, broken only by the occasional whisper of leaves in a non-existent breeze. The dark sorcerer's eyes darted from shadow to shadow, his grip tightening on his gnarled staff. Suddenly, the very air seemed to ripple. From the deepening gloom, a figure emerged, Sitrong, his scales glistening like polished opals in the fading light. The carbuncle on his forehead glowed like a miniature sun, pulsing with ancient power. As he slithered forward, the plants around him seemed to bow in reverence. Datu, Sitrong hissed, his voice calm yet resonating with authority that seemed to shake the very ground. You trespass in a realm beyond your understanding. Leave this place, and spare yourself the folly of seeking what you cannot possess. The sorcerer's eyes narrowed, a sinister smile curling his lips. With a theatrical flourish of his cloak, he stepped forward. So, the vaunted guardian reveals himself at last, he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. I expected something more. Impressive. You are but a serpent, and I am the master of the dark arts. The jewel will be mine, and with it, I will command not just this paltry forest, but realms beyond your imagination. You underestimate the bond between Maganjan and its guardian, Sitrong replied, his carbuncle flashing brightly. This jewel is not merely an object of power, it is the heart of the forest, a symbol of harmony and sacrifice. It will never be yours, for you lack the wisdom to wield it. Datu's face contorted with rage. Wisdom? I'll show you power that goes beyond your petty notions of wisdom. With a snarl, he raised his staff high. The crystal atop it pulsed with sickly green light, and dark tendrils of magic erupted from its tip, snaking towards Sitrong with terrifying speed. But Sitrong was prepared. With a grace that belied his serpentine form, he weaved between the tendrils. His body seemed to flow like water, each movement precise and purposeful. As he dodged, he called out to the forest around them. Maganjan, lend me your strength. The response was immediate and awe-inspiring. The forest came alive in a spectacular display of natural magic. Massive trees groaned as they bent their ancient trunks, their branches weaving together to form an impenetrable barrier behind Datu, cutting off his retreat. The ground beneath the sorcerer's feet trembled and split, as gnarled roots burst forth, writhing like tentacles as they sought to entangle his legs. Datu stumbled, momentarily caught off guard by the forest's response. But he quickly regained his composure, his eyes blazing with dark fire. Impressive parlor tricks, Serpent. But let me show you true mastery over nature. With a word of power that seemed to sear the air, Datu slammed his staff into the ground. A shock wave of dark energy radiated outward, withering plants and causing smaller trees to crack and splinter. The entangling roots blackened and retreated, smoke rising from their charred forms. Sitrong winced, feeling the forest's pain as if it were his own. But he stood his ground, his voice rising above the cacophony of breaking wood and rumbling earth. You claim mastery, yet you bring only destruction. The true power of Maganhan lies in creation and renewal. As he spoke, Citrong's carbuncle blazed with blinding intensity. A wave of golden light washed over the damaged area. Where it touched, new life sprang forth. Saplings burst from the scorched earth, growing years in seconds. Flowers bloomed in a riot of colors, their petals shimmering with an otherworldly light. Datu's eyes widened in disbelief. Impossible. How can you? But Citrong wasn't finished. With a sinuous movement, he reared up, his form seeming to grow larger, more majestic. When he spoke again, his voice carried the wisdom of ages. Datu, you who were once a protector of your people, look upon what you have become. Is this truly the legacy you wish to leave? Destruction and chaos in pursuit of power that will only corrupt you further. For a moment, something flickered in Datu's eyes, a hint of the noble leader he had once been. But it was quickly consumed by the darkness that had taken root in his soul. Save your sermons, Guardian. I've come too far to turn back now. The carbuncle will be mine, and no amount of forest trickery will stop me. With a roar of defiance, Datu unleashed a barrage of dark magic. Bolts of crackling energy tore through the air, leaving trails of acrid smoke. Citrong moved with incredible speed, his body twisting and coiling as he evaded the attacks. Each bolt that missed him struck the forest, leaving scorch marks and small fires in their wake. Enough. Citrong's voice thundered, filled with a power that seemed to shake the very foundations of Maganhan. The carbuncle on his forehead pulsed, and suddenly, the air was filled with thousands of glowing butterflies. They swarmed around Datu, their wings leaving trails of golden light. The sorcerer swatted at them in frustration, but for each one he dispelled, 10 more seemed to take its place. Soon, he was engulfed in a swirling vortex of light and color, disorienting him and disrupting his concentration. Seizing the moment, Citrong struck. Moving faster than the eye could follow, he circled Datu, his scales leaving a trail of shimmering energy. The energy coalesced into a glowing barrier, trapping the sorcerer within. Datu raged against his confinement, hurling spell after spell at the barrier. But each attack was absorbed, the energy feeding back into the forest, causing flowers to bloom and trees to grow stronger. Panting with exertion, Datu glared at Citrong. This is not over, Guardian. I will have the carbuncle, even if I have to tear this entire forest apart to get it. Citrong met his gaze steadily. Then we will be here to stop you, Datu. For as long as it takes. Maganhan has stood for millennia, and it will not fall to your ambition. With a final surge of power, Citrong caused the ground beneath Datu to crack. Before the sorcerer could react, he was sinking, pulled down by the very earth itself. In moments, he had vanished from sight, transported to the outskirts of the forest. As the last echoes of the battle faded, Citrong surveyed the damage. Though Datu had been repelled, the cost had been high. Parts of the forest lay scorched and broken, a testament to the sorcerer's destructive power. But even as he watched, new growth began to emerge from the devastation. Maganhan was resilient, and with the guidance of its guardian, it would heal. Citrong knew, however, that this was only the beginning. Datu would return, likely stronger and more determined than ever. As night fell fully over the forest, Citrong slithered back to the heart of Maganhan. He had much to discuss with his allies, for the true test of their resolve was yet to come. As the full moon rose over Maganhan, its silvery light filtered through the canopy, casting long, deep shadows across the forest floor. The clearing where Citrong and his allies gathered seemed peaceful, but that tranquility was about to be shattered. Suddenly, the shadows began to writhe and twist, coalescing into a monstrous form. Datu emerged, now a towering, amorphous creature of shadow and malice. His voice boomed, distorted and inhuman. Citrong. You thought you had defeated me, but you've only awakened my true power. Citrong and his friends, Dali, Dare, and Bantai, spun around, their eyes widening in horror. The carbuncle on Citrong's forehead pulsed urgently, sensing the immense danger. Datu struck first, tendrils of pure darkness shooting forth like deadly spears. Citrong weaved between them, his serpentine body a blur of motion. One tendril grazed his scales, leaving a burning, icy sensation in its wake. Dali leapt into action, her swift legs carrying her in a zigzag pattern. She charged at Datu, aiming her sharp antlers at what seemed to be the creature's core. But at the last moment, Datu's form shifted, becoming insubstantial. Dali passed right through him, momentarily disoriented. Seizing this opportunity, Datu's shadow wrapped around Dolly's hind legs, lifting her into the air. The deer kicked and struggled, her hooves passing harmlessly through the shadowy tendrils. With a vicious swing, Datu slammed Dolly into a nearby tree. The impact shook the forest, leaves raining down as Dolly crumpled to the ground, dazed but still conscious. Dea took to the air, her wings beating furiously. She dive-bombed Datu, her sharp beak aimed at where his eyes should be. "Take this, you monster," she cried. As she struck, her beak glowed with a strange light, an ancient spell she had prepared for just such an occasion. The spell connected, and for a moment, Datu's form wavered, light piercing through the shadows. He roared in pain and anger, swatting at Dea with massive, clawed hands formed from darkness. Bantai seized this moment of distraction. The agile macaque scampered up the nearest tree, leaping from branch to branch until he was directly above Datu. From his fur, he pulled out a handful of seeds, a gift from Loluamian. With precise aim, he threw them into the writhing mass of shadows below. The seeds burst into brilliant flashes of light as they made contact, each one like a miniature sun. Datu shrieked, his form billowing and contorting as the light burned away portions of his shadowy body. But the victory was short-lived. Recovering quickly, Datu expanded his form, tendrils of darkness lashing out in all directions. One caught Bantai mid-leap, wrapping around the macaque's torso. Bantai let out a scream of pain as the darkness seemed to burn him, sapping his strength. Citrong, seeing his friend in danger, summoned the power of the carbuncle. A beam of golden light shot from the jewel on his forehead, striking the tendril holding Bantai. The darkness hissed and recoiled, releasing the macaque. Bantai fell, barely managing to grab onto a lower branch, hanging there weakly. Datu's attention now fully on Citrong, the shadow creature pressed his attack. A barrage of dark projectiles rained down on the Serpent Guardian. Citrong slithered at incredible speed, dodging most, but a few found their mark, leaving searing cold burns on his scales. "You cannot win, Guardian," Datu laughed, his voice echoing unnaturally. "The night is my domain now, and in the shadows, I am invincible." To prove his point, Datu's form expanded further, engulfing the entire clearing in darkness. Citrong found himself surrounded, unable to see his friends or the forest around him. He felt the shadows pressing in, sapping his strength and dimming the light of the carbuncle. In the pitch blackness, the battle continued. Citrong could hear the struggles of his friends. Dali, having regained her footing, charged blindly, trying to use her keen senses to locate Datu. But in this unnatural darkness, even her sharp eyes and ears were dulled. She collided with an invisible barrier of shadow, sending her sprawling once again. Dea flapped desperately in the air, using echolocation to navigate. She unleashed another spell, causing a brief flash of light. At that moment, she saw Datu's massive form and dive-bombed again. But this time, Datu was ready. A tendril of shadow wrapped around her wing, threatening to crush it. Bantai, still clinging to the branch, fumbled in his fur for more of Loluamian's seeds. Finding one, he threw it blindly into the darkness. It exploded in a shower of sparks, briefly illuminating Datu's twisted face. The macaque gasped at the horrifying visage, momentarily paralyzed with fear. Citrong, At the center of it all, fought with every ounce of his strength. He created a bubble of light around himself, pushing back the encroaching darkness. But he could feel his power waning, the constant assault of shadows taking its toll. Through the gloom, he heard the pained cries of his friends growing weaker. Dolly's labored breathing, Dyer's weakening wing beats, Buntye's muffled whimpers, each sound pierced Citrong's heart like a physical blow. "Give up the carbuncle, Citrong," Datu's voice whispered from all around. "Give it to me, and I might spare your pathetic friends." Citrong felt himself weakening, the light of the carbuncle flickering. He had never faced a power like this before, never felt so overwhelmed and outmatched. For the first time since becoming the guardian of Maganjan, Citrong felt true fear, not for himself, but for the forest and friends he had sworn to protect. As the shadows closed in, threatening to extinguish the last remnants of light, Citrong made a desperate plea. "Maganjan," he whispered, his voice barely audible, "if ever you needed to lend us your strength, it is now. Please, help us in our darkest hour." The forest seemed to hold its breath, the fate of Maganjan hanging in the balance as Datu's monstrous form loomed over the battered and nearly defeated defenders.
Thank you for joining us on this new tale of wonder and magic. Catch us next time for the exciting continuation of the adventure of Citrong and his friends in the next chapter of The Serpent's Pearl here at Kababalagan 101. We love to hear your thoughts about the story. Let us know in the comments section, and share the video to your friends. If you like this kind of videos, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to show your support and help us produce more of these type of content for you. You can reach us through our Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Say hi. We would love to hear from our friends and grow the community. Thank you, and stay spooky.